I stand at the entrance of Pine Rock Lake Resort, my clipboard pressed against my chest like armor. The Montana mountains rise behind me, indifferent witnesses to what's about to unfold. Again. The same ritual, the same family, the same invisible me. Charlene's silver Lexus appears first, winding up the tree-lined drive, sunlight glinting off polished chrome. My mother-in-law doesn't even look at me as she steps out, designer sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair. Valerie. She hands me her Louis Vuitton luggage without making eye contact. Not a question about my drive here, not a comment about the weather. Just my name, an acknowledgement of my existence, and nothing more. Good to see you too, Charlene. I take the bag, adding it to my mental tally of slights. Year 11, Day 1. Behind her, Paige's red BMW convertible screeches to a halt. My sister in law's voice carries across the parking lot, her phone pressed between her shoulder and ear. Absolutely record-breaking. The buyers didn't even blink at the asking price. She waves distractedly in my direction. Let me call you back. Family stuff. Family stuff. As if I qualify. I check off their names on my clipboard, my own private scoreboard. Joel arrives last, his sensible sedan dusty from the drive. He kisses my cheek, a quick peck that carries the weight of an apology he hasn't yet earned the right to make. Everything okay? He asks. I nod. What else can I do? Tell him that after 10 years I'm suffocating under the weight of his family's dismissal? That each year chips away another piece of the woman he married? Perfect, I lied. The resort restaurant glows with amber light, windows reflecting the lake where silver ripples catch the sunset. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, waitstaff moving with practiced precision. I've spent weeks planning this gathering, making sure everything would be flawless. I finalize the contract for the Westlake project. I mention when conversation lulls. The Renewable Energy Initiative should. Darling, Charlene interrupts, her voice honeyed with false warmth. Would you mind checking if they have those crackers you fetched last year, the ones with the seeds? Joel studies his menu intently, suddenly fascinated by the difference between poached and grilled salmon. Of course, I say, pushing back my chair. When I return with the crackers, Paige is mid-story about some celebrity client. She pauses just long enough to stage whisper to Joel's cousin. Valerie has such a helpful nature, so accommodating. The word lands like a slap. Accommodating. The quality of hotel staff, of service providers, not of equals. Joel shifts in his seat but says nothing. His silence roars in my ears. I remember last Christmas organizing the entire Benton family gathering. 32 people, coordinating travel from 4 states, planning menus around 3 different food allergies. And when they gathered for photos, Charlene's gentle suggestion, Valerie, would you mind taking this one? Just the family. Just the family. Or the dinner celebrating my promotion, when Uncle Richard asked what I actually did all day, then talked over my answer to ask Joel about his semester grading. But it was last summer's retreat that truly broke something inside me. We sat on this very terrace, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson. Paige had laughed at my detailed itinerary for the week. You'd make a great office assistant, Val, super organized. Charlene nodded thoughtfully. Some women are just better behind the scenes, dear. That night, while Joel slept, I walked to the dock alone. The water was black glass under a canopy of stars. I pulled out my phone and typed an email to my college friend in real estate syndication. Subject: that opportunity we discussed. For 9 months, I moved through my life like a ghost with purpose. Meetings in hotel lobbies during work conferences, document reviews at our kitchen table while Joel graded papers. The final signing happened on a Tuesday afternoon in April. My hand didn't shake at all. Now I stand at the resort entrance one day early, watching Charlene hand me her luggage. But this time, there's a difference she can't see. My name is on the deed. I've spent a decade being invisible. Tomorrow, they'll finally see me. And they won't like what they see at all. The next day, I watch from the resort lobby window as the valet accepts Charlene's keys without the usual flourish. No rushing, no special smiles, just the standard professionalism we've implemented for all guests. Her face tightens almost imperceptibly. The first ripple in her perfect world. Ma'am, Would you like assistance with your bags? He asks, exactly as instructed. Charlene blinks, momentarily thrown by the question. For 10 years, her bags have simply disappeared to her cabin without a word. Ewell, of course I would. Behind her, Paige slams her car door, phone still glued to her ear. She tosses her keys at the next valet, who catches them without the deferential bow she's accustomed to receiving. I slip away before they enter, retreating to my new office. The resort manager, Thomas, awaits with our morning reports. Everything going according to the new protocols? I ask, settling into my chair Italian leather, my one indulgence when updating the space. Perfectly. His eyes crinkle with something between amusement and respect, though Mrs. Benton seemed surprised when I addressed her as ma'am instead of by name. Imagine that, I murmur, reviewing the cabin assignments. Families all in their usual spots? Yes, but without the complimentary wine baskets and pre-stocked refrigerators they're used to. I nod, satisfaction warming my chest. Standard welcome packages only, no exceptions. When I join them for dinner, they've been festering for hours. The restaurant hums with the pleasant conversation of regular guests, but our table radiates tension like a cracked reactor. Valerie, Charlene sets down her water glass with precision. Have you noticed the service isn't what it used to be? I tilt my head with practiced innocence. How so? The valet barely looked at me when I arrived, Paige interjects, scrolling through her phone. And my cabin's minibar wasn't stocked with the vouv I specifically requested last year. Perhaps management changed hands, I suggested, unfolding my napkin. Uncle Richard snorts. Heard some faceless investor bought in, probably squeezing every penny from the place. He gestures broadly, wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim of his glass. These types never understand tradition or quality. Joel shifts uncomfortably beside me. Maybe we should leave a review. Might help them improve. What an inspired suggestion. I say, my voice neutral while my stomach knots with a decade of swallowed responses. The sheets aren't even the Egyptian cotton we've grown accustomed to. Charlene continues as if testing how many complaints fit into a single breath, and I had to ask twice for more towels. I sip my wine. The California Cabernet tastes particularly rich tonight. I'm sure management is doing their best. Their best isn't good enough, Paige snaps. Not for what we pay. A server approaches, nodding respectfully in my direction, a small acknowledgement that goes unnoticed by everyone except Joel, whose brow furrows slightly. Excuse me for a moment, I say, rising from the table. I need to make a quick call. Their complaints fade as I walk through the restaurant toward the back offices. Thomas meets me in the hallway, holding a leather portfolio. Everything you requested, Miss Benton. Inside my temporary office, I open the portfolio. 10 years of meticulously documented entitlement spread before me in neat columns and formal complaints. Paige's unauthorized subletting of their cabin during peak season, charging premium rates while the resort received only the family's discounted payment. Uncle Richard's lease agreement with special rates expired 3 years ago but mysteriously honored each season. 27 documented complaints from housekeeping staff about Charlene's treatment, including one incident where she demanded a housekeeper unpack and organize her lingerie. My fingers trace the staff notes. The Benton family arrival week is our most requested vacation time among staff, one manager had written. Unfortunately, not in a good way. I close the portfolio, something cold and clear crystallizing in my chest. This isn't just about me. It never was. When I return to the table, Joel is attempting to smooth Paige's ruffled feathers. I'm sure they'll fix whatever issues you're having with the cabin before tomorrow, he offers. They'd better, she replies. I've already promised Jennifer she could use it next month. She's paying a premium for lakefront access. The portfolio feels heavy in my hands as I retake my seat. Joel notices it immediately. Work stuff? He asks. Something like that, I answered, placing it beside my plate. Resort business, actually. Charlene's eyebrows lift. Don't tell me you're consulting for this place now, though they certainly need the help. Not exactly consulting, I say, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. Uncle Richard guffaws. What then? They've got you fetching extra crackers for the whole resort now. The table erupts in practiced laughter, the kind that's been at my expense for a decade. I don't join in. Instead, I open the portfolio and withdraw a single page. Actually, I say, sliding it toward Paige, I wanted to discuss your subletting arrangement. Her laughter dies instantly. My what? Your habit of renting out the family cabin to your clients. At a considerable markup, I might add. The blood drains from her face so quickly I wonder if she might faint. That's ridiculous. Who told you that? Resort records, I replied. Very thorough ones. Charlene's eyes narrow. Valerie, what exactly are you playing at? I look around the table at each of them, these people who've dismissed me for so long they've forgotten I might be watching. The moment balances on a knife's edge. Soon, everything changes. But tonight I simply smiled. Just gathering information. Isn't that what you've always said I'm good at, Paige? Being super organized? I closed the portfolio. Soon they'll learn exactly what I've organized. A week later, I sat in the back corner of the Lakeside Bistro, my third meeting spot this month. Different city, different coffee shop, same purpose. My consulting portfolio rests on the polished table renewable energy feasibility studies neatly organized inside. But today, it's just a prop. These projections look solid. Marcus slides the real paperwork back across the table, resort acquisition documents hidden between environmental impact assessments. His eyes, shrewd behind wire-rimmed glasses, hold a question. You're sure about this, Valerie? It's a significant investment. I've never been more certain of anything. My voice sounds different these days, lower, steadier, the voice of someone with a purpose beyond accommodation. He nods, collecting his coffee cup. The others are impressed with your strategy. Using the renewable angle to justify the zoning changes was brilliant. A small smile touches my lips. I do know my field. 10 years of being the helpful, quiet daughter-in-law taught me one valuable lesson. People who don't see you also don't notice what you're learning about them. Back at home that evening, Joel grades papers at the dining table, red pen marking student essays with the same methodical precision I've applied to my own project. I spread my consulting work beside him, our elbows occasionally brushing in domesticated harmony. Heavy workload? He asks without looking up. Just finalizing that Montana project. Not a lie. The best secrets hide in plain sight. His pen pauses. The renewable thing? Yes. I shuffle through permits that would reveal everything if he bothered to read them. The solar installation should offset nearly 40% of operational costs. He nods, attention already returning to his student's work. That's nice, Val. 8 words about my career, then silence. The next afternoon, I excuse myself from a faculty luncheon at the university where Joel teaches. Sorry, work call, I explain, and no one questions it. They never do. In my car, I dial into the conference call that will transfer the first payment from my personal accounts. Money I've saved over a decade while Joel's family assumed I was just a consultant. Money that will purchase what they value most. Miss Benton, we've received confirmation of the wire transfer, my attorney says. The syndication group is impressed with your capital contribution. 10 years of careful saving adds up, I reply, watching Joel's colleagues through the restaurant window. They've already closed the small gap where I sat, conversation flowing uninterrupted around my absence. The first time Joel took me to Pine Rock Lake Resort, Charlene made a point of explaining its significance. The Bentons have been coming here for generations, she said, voice dripping with ancestral pride. They know us here. What she didn't know was how I listened to the staff when they thought no one was paying attention. How I noticed the general manager's frustration when the owners refused improvements. How I recognized the potential in the aging property with its perfect lakefront location. What she didn't know was that I had spent my career analyzing infrastructure potential and making things work when others couldn't see the possibilities. That night, after finalizing the first phase of acquisition, I lay awake beside Joel. His breathing is even, peaceful. He has no idea that I've mortgaged our future together on this gamble. Joel, I whisper, knowing he won't wake. I'm buying Pine Rock. Saying it aloud feels both terrifying and liberating. My heart pounds hard enough that I press my palm against my chest, certain the drumming will wake him. It doesn't. In the morning, I check my secure email while Joel showers. The resort's general manager has responded to my confidential inquiry with pages of documentation, staffing issues, deferred maintenance, special arrangements for legacy guests, including detailed records of the Benton family's annual demands. I forward everything to my attorneys with 2 words: as expected. 3 weeks later, I met with the investment group in Denver. 7 people around a conference table, reviewing final projections for the property acquisition. The environmental upgrades will increase value by at least 15% within 18 months. I explain, pointing to charts I've prepared. Tax incentives cover nearly 30% of installation costs. And your personal interest in this property? Asks Sandra, the group's most skeptical member. I maintain eye contact. I know it intimately. I understand its potential and its limitations. I've visited annually for a decade. What I don't say: I know which cabin has plumbing issues every spring. I know which staff members deserve promotion. I know which family has been exploiting loopholes in rental agreements for years. Your expertise in renewable infrastructure is impressive, Sandra concedes. But taking operational control rather than just advisory status is unusual for someone with your background. I smile. Sometimes management requires someone who sees what others miss. On the day I sign the final papers, I wear a blue blazer I purchased for myself, not the burgundy one Charlene once suggested would suit my coloring better. My hand is steady as I sign my name on the line that makes me managing partner with operational 7. Control. The attorney slides the resort's master keys across the mahogany table. Congratulations, Miss Benton. Pine Rock Lake Resort is now under your direction. I don't cry, I don't laugh. I simply allow myself one deep breath of acknowledgement. A decade of careful navigation has led to this moment. That night, Joel asks about my day while microwaving leftovers. Busy, I say. Finalize that big project. The Montana thing? He stirs pasta without looking up. Yes. I watch him, wondering if he hears the difference in my voice. He doesn't. The Montana thing. 2 months later, I arrived at Pine Rock Lake Resort one day before the annual family retreat. The general manager greets me at the entrance, no clipboard in sight. Everything is prepared according to your specifications, Miss Benton, he says, leading me toward my officino, a guest cabin. Thank you, Richard. I pause at the threshold, taking in the view of the mountains through floor to ceiling windows. And the staff understand the protocols for tomorrow's arrivals? Absolutely, the Benton family will receive exactly the same treatment as any other guests. His smile holds no malice, just professional satisfaction. No more, no less. I nod, setting my briefcase on the desk that now belongs to me. Perfect. Tomorrow, Charlene's silver Lexus will wind up the tree-lined drive. She'll hand her Louis Vuitton luggage to the valet with barely a glance. Paige will arrive talking loudly on her phone about property values and commission rates. And I'll be waiting. Not with a clipboard, but with a deed. The next day, I stand at the window of our lakeside cabin, watching the afternoon light glitter across Pine Rock Lake. Behind me, Joel rummages through his suitcase, humming tunelessly. He has no idea what's coming. Did you see Uncle Richard bring that awful green sweater again? Joel chuckles, holding up his own neatly pressed button-down. The one with the elbow patches? I nod, not turning from the window. Some things never change. But some things do. The resort staff moved differently today, their eyes meeting mine with a new awareness, small nods exchanged when Joel isn't looking. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus, the general manager. Everything prepared for tonight's announcement. Just say the word. You've been quiet, Joel says, approaching to stand beside me. His hand touches my shoulder, familiar yet somehow foreign. Everything okay? Perfect, I reply. The same answer I've given for 10 years. Through the window, I spot Charlene and Paige walking toward the main lodge, Charlene's hand rising to snap her fingers at a groundskeeper who doesn't respond. Her face tightens with indignation as she says something to Paige, who nods vigorously. We should head down, Joel says, checking his watch. Mom likes to have drinks before dinner. Mom likes it. Mom prefers. Mom expects. The mantra of our marriage. I'll meet you there, I say. I need to make a quick call. His brow furrows momentarily before smoothing out. Work stuff? Something like that. After he leaves, I open my leather portfolio with one page once referred to as my little folder of tasks. Inside rests the future of Pine Rock Lake Resort, signed in triplicate. I run my fingers over the embossed leather, remembering the night I decided enough was enough. The resort bar glows in amber when I arrive 30 minutes later. Crystal glasses catch the light like prisms, throwing tiny rainbows across white tablecloths. Joel's family has claimed their usual corner table, Charlene holding court in a coral blouse that probably cost more than my first car. "Valerie, there you are," she says without looking up from her martini. "We were just discussing the decline in service standards." "Oh?" I slide into the remaining chair at the edge of the table naturally. The valet barely acknowledged me. Paige huffs, tapping bright red nails against her wine glass. "And our cabin is missing the welcome basket with those European chocolates." Uncle Richard leans forward, wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim of his glass. "Someone said some faceless investor group bought the place, probably squeezing every penny." Joel nods sympathetically. "Maybe we should leave a review. Might help them improve." I sip my wine slowly, feeling its warmth spread through my chest. I'm sure management is doing their best with the transition. "Well, their best isn't good enough," Charlene declares. "I've been coming here for 20 years and the staff used to know exactly how I like things." I caught the eye of Emma, the bartender who's worked here since before I met Joel. She gives me the slightest wink. Emma knows exactly who owns Pine Rock now. "I heard they're planning renovations," I offer. "Sustainable energy upgrades, lakefront restoration." Paige waves this away. "God, that sounds dreadful. They'll ruin the charm with all that modern nonsense." "Speaking of our cabin," she continues, leaning toward Uncle Richard, "I have a client who would pay top dollar to use it next month during the photography festival. We could split the profit like last year." My phone vibrates in my pocket. Another text from Marcus. "Documents ready in the office whenever you're ready." "Excuse me," I say, rising from my chair. "I need to check something." "The restroom is down the hall, dear," Charlene says dismissively. I don't correct her. Instead, I walk with measured steps toward the manager's office, past framed photographs of the mountains in every season. The door bears a discreet brass plaque. Management. I knock once before entering. Marcus stands as I close the door behind me. "Miss Benton, everything's ready." "Show me." He slides a folder across the polished desk. Inside are printouts of complaints, invoices, and emails spanning a decade. "The subletting situation?" I ask. "Documented thoroughly." Marcus points to a spreadsheet. "Miss Page has been renting out the family cabin during peak seasons for at least 5 years. No permission granted, no revenue shared with the resort." I nod, scanning further. "And Richard's lease?" "Expired 3 years ago. He's been paying 2018 rates through a verbal agreement with the previous owner." The next page makes my breath catch. A formal complaint from housekeeping staff about Charlene's behavior last summer. "Guest threw clothing at staff member when items were returned with insufficient pressing." "The staff," I begin. Marcus's expression softens. "They've dreaded the Benton family's arrival for years. Your mother-in-law has filed 17 complaints about specific staff members in the past decade. 3 employees quit rather than work during your family's stays." My family. The phrase sticks like a fishbone in my throat. "And the announcement arrangements?" He straightens. "Champagne will be served with the main course. I'll make the introduction at 7:45 precisely." I close the folder, tuck it under my arm. Perfect. When I return to the table, Joel gives me a questioning look. "Everything okay? You were gone for a while." "Just finalizing some details," I reply, settling back into my seat. Charlene sips her fresh martini. "Valerie, be a dear and ask if they have those little bacon-wrapped dates. The waitstaff is ignoring us completely." I meet her eyes directly, something I rarely do. "I think we should wait for the main course, Charlene. I hear there's going to be a special announcement tonight." "An announcement?" She frowns. "What could possibly be important enough to interrupt dinner?" I smile. "You'll see." An hour later, I stand just outside the dining room, taking a final steadying breath. The mahogany doors frame the scene like a portrait. My husband's family seated at their usual table by the windows, lake waters shimmering behind them in the evening light. Charlene raises her wine glass to her lips, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Paige gestures dramatically to Joel's Uncle Richard, who nods with exaggerated importance. Joel sees me first. His brow furrows slightly, perhaps noticing something different in my posture. I am no longer hunched against their judgment. "Everything okay, Val?" he asks as I slip into my chair. "Perfect timing," I say, signaling discreetly to Marcus, the general manager. We'd rehearsed this moment during our early morning meeting. The staff positioned strategically around the dining room caught my eye one by one: Emma at the bar, Robert by the service station, Teresa near the kitchen doors. Small nods, almost imperceptible. A battalion assembled for a battle the enemy doesn't know is coming. Charlene interrupts my thoughts. I was just telling everyone about the appalling service at check-in. Someone should really speak to management. She pronounces management with the disdain usually reserved for discussing vermin. "Did you have a specific complaint?" I ask, unfolding my napkin across my lap. The young man at reception didn't recognize us. Can you imagine? After all these years, having to spell out my name like some random tourist? She turns to Paige. "The standards have absolutely plummeted." "I know." Paige agrees, scrolling through her phone. "And they put me in cabin 4 instead of 6. I specifically wanted 6 for the client viewing tomorrow. The lighting is all wrong in 4. Uncle Richard swirls his bourbon. "I heard some faceless investor bought the place, probably going to ruin it with cost-cutting. No respect for tradition." Joel shifts uncomfortably. "Maybe we should leave a review. Might help them improve." I take a slow sip of water, letting the ice clink against my teeth. "I'm sure management is aware of your concerns." Marcus approaches with a bottle of champagne, white napkin draped precisely over his arm. He catches my eye, the slightest lift of his eyebrow. "Ready?" I nod once. "Now." The crystal chime of his spoon against glass silences the dining room. Forks pause midway to mouths. Conversations drift into stillness. "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests of Pine Rock Lake Resort." Marcus begins, his voice carrying to every corner. "Tonight we have the honor of formally introducing someone very special. Over the past 6 months, Pine Rock has undergone subtle but significant changes under new leadership upgrades to our sustainability practices, improvements to staff benefits, and a renewed commitment to treating all our guests with equal respect." Charlene frowns, whispering loudly to Paige. "What's this about? We're trying to eat." Marcus continues. "We're proud to recognize our new managing partner, whose vision is shaping the future of Pine Rock, Miss Valerie Benton." The dining room erupts in polite applause as I rise from my chair. Paige chokes on her wine, red droplets splattering her white blouse. Charlene freezes, fork suspended between plate and mouth, a piece of salmon dangling precariously. Uncle Richard's tumbler slips from his fingers, bourbon splashing onto the tablecloth. Joel's face drains of color, his eyes wide with shock, recognition, and something else, perhaps a decade of willful blindness suddenly cleared. I walk to the front of the dining room, shoulders squared, chin lifted. The woman they never truly saw now commands every eye in the room. My heels strike the hardwood floor with purpose, each step marking the distance between who I was and who I am. "Thank you, Marcus," I say, my voice steady and clear. Pine Rock has always been a special place, a sanctuary where guests come to reconnect with nature and themselves. I scan the dining room, meeting curious gazes. As the new managing partner, my commitment is to ensure every guest receives the same exceptional experience regardless of their last name or how many years they've been coming here. My eyes find Joel's. He stares back, a man witnessing a solar eclipse without proper protection. "No exceptions, no discounts, no legacy perks," I continue. "Just honest, equal service for everyone who chooses to spend their time with us." I return to our table, a leather portfolio tucked under my arm. The whispers follow me like ripples in water. Charlene attempts recovery, her social smiles strained at the edges. "Valerie, darling," she begins, voice honeyed with false warmth. "What a delightful surprise. Why didn't you tell us about this little venture of yours?" I set the portfolio on the table. You never asked, Charlene, about this or about me for 10 years. I opened the folder, extracting several documents with practiced precision. Page, all unauthorized subletting of resort property has been terminated, effective immediately. I slide the first document across the table. Your planned showing tomorrow has been canceled, and the client notified. Page's mouth opens and closes like a hooked fish. I turn to Uncle Richard. Expired leases have been reviewed. You have 30 days to vacate cabin 11, which will then return to regular inventory. Finally, I face Charlene, sliding a sealed envelope toward her. This contains documented complaints from staff regarding your behavior over the past decade, along with a draft press release about Pine Rock's new harassment-free workplace policy. I stand, gathering my portfolio. I have an early meeting about the resort's renewable energy installation. Enjoy your dessert. The chocolate soufflé is particularly good tonight. Walking away, I feel 10 years of silence lifting from my shoulders. Behind me, their carefully constructed social facade crumbles like sandcastles at high tide. Joel follows me out, catching my arm in the lobby. His face shows the first genuine recognition of who I am, who I've always been. Valerie, he whispers, his voice strangled. I had no idea. That, I say quietly, has always been our problem. He followed me out. The cabin door clicked shut behind Joel. He stood in the entryway, his silhouette darkened against the moonlight filtering through the windows. I sat in the armchair by the stone fireplace, legs tucked beneath her, a glass of Cabernet untouched on the side table. Why didn't you tell me? His voice hung in the air between them, not accusatory, just hollow. I looked up from the dancing flames. You never asked about this or about me for 10 years. The truth settled around us like dust after an explosion. Joel moved to the couch across from me, his academic's posture now slumped with the weight of revelation. I thought we were happy, he said. No. I took a sip of wine, letting the tannic warmth coat my tongue. You were comfortable. I was invisible. Outside the window, Pine Rock Lake reflected the stars, the same view that had witnessed my decision 1 year ago. The mountains stood sentinel, unchanged by human dramas playing out in their shadow. All those meetings, the late nights working. Just another consulting project, I finished for him. That's what you always called my work, Joel. Just little projects, nothing important enough to ask about. He rubbed his palms against his knees, a nervous habit from their first date that once endeared him to me. Now it just underscored the stranger sitting across from me. What happens now? He asked. You pack. I will stay. My voice remained level, the product of months practicing this moment. I'll have the papers sent to your office next week. No anger filled the space between us, no shouting, just the quiet acknowledgement of a relationship built on silence, his unwillingness to see me, my unwillingness to demand being seen. Morning arrived with golden light spilling across the dock. I stood with my clipboard, steam rising from my coffee mug into the crisp Montana air. Behind me, the resort sprawled with potential. Miss Benton? Resort manager Thomas Morgan approached with a folder. The sustainability proposals you requested. Thank you, Thomas. I took the folder, their professional exchange unmarred by the family drama still reverberating through the property. Has Mrs. Benton Sr. checked out yet? Left at dawn. Miss Page is still packing. She asked about scheduling a meeting with you regarding a potential partnership. I allowed myself a small smile. Tell her my calendar is full for the foreseeable future. I walked the property as the sun climbed higher, nodding to groundskeepers who straightened at my approach. Not from fear, but respect. The architect in me saw not what was, but what could be: solar panels along the southern rooflines, restored wetlands at the lake's edge, staff housing with dignity built into every detail. In the main office, I paused before a wall map of the property. With a red marker, I circled a small peninsula jutting into the lake. This cabin, I told Thomas, I want it renovated as my permanent residence. The old boathouse, it needs substantial work. I know exactly what it needs. I traced the shoreline with my finger. Privacy, sustainability, a place that's truly mine. Joel's suitcases stood by the door when I returned to their cabin that evening. His academic papers cleared from the desk, his books boxed by the fireplace. I found a position at Pacific Northwest University, he said, his voice tinged with something like regret. I'll be gone by morning. I nodded, the weight of a decade lifting from her shoulders. I wish you well, Joel. Did you ever love me? He asked, his last attempt to understand. I considered lying, offering comfort in our final moments. Instead, I gave him the truth he'd never sought before. I loved who I thought you could be.